We welcome you all to the fourth day of Industry Academia Conclave 2020 on aquaculture, avenues, opportunities, and challenges. As a formal gesture, I request our Dean Sciences, Dr. S.T. Noorjahan ma'am, to welcome the gathering. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, sir. Most respected Principal Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, Honorable General Secretary and Correspondent Sardar Manjit Singh, our beloved Vice Principal Shift 1 Dr. L.R.S. Kalanidhi, person of today's session, Dr. M.C. Ramani, Project Manager, Scientific Research Planning and Management, MPEDA. A hearty welcome to you all on behalf of Guru Nanak College Center for Research. Welcome Dr. J. Jayanti, Dean Research, and other deans of various schools, heads, Dr. Mahendra Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Biotechnology, who is coordinating this program, and also other participants and other dignitaries from various other organizations. A warm welcome to you all. So a Chinese proverb says, you give a man a fish and you feed him a day. You teach him to fish and you will give him an occupation that will feed him for a lifetime. This holds good for this program, which sheds light on aquaculture as well as on entrepreneurship. So how to get benefited out of this program regarding this aquaculture, as well as how to start a business. So this is a great thing. At the outset, I congratulate Dr. J. Jayanti, Dean Research, for conducting this Industry Academia Conclave 2020, and I request the participants, especially students, to interact with the speaker and get benefited out of this program. So I thank once again the organizers for giving me this opportunity and for welcoming you all. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I request Dr. S. Venu, Assistant Professor, Department of Advanced Zoology and Animal Biotechnology, Guru Nanak College, to kindly introduce our chief guest, Dr. Ramani MC. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, one and all persons here. I'm happy to introduce today's resource person, Dr. MC Ramani, who is the Project Manager of Scientific Research, Planning and Management Cell of the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Aquaculture, the R&D arm of Marine Products Export Development Authority, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. He also heads the disease screening laboratory of the country, one and only dedicated quarantine center for aquatic organisms, which is located in Neelangarai, Chennai. He had worked in various capacities in reputed oceanography and aquaculture research organizations such as National Institute of Oceanography, Goa, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, Chennai, Marine Biotechnology Cell of Goa University, National Institute of Ocean Technology, Chennai and Andaman Centers. Dr. Ramani was a rank holder and gold medalist in aquatic biology and fishery science from Kerala University, and was awarded the CSIR and DBT Fellowship for Pursuing Research. During her academic and research career, she had authored 3 books besides several international and national publications to be reviewed in aquaculture journals. She is also the member of World Aquaculture Society and editor of the RGCA newsletter. We are happy to have you here. Welcome, madam. Welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Venu. Thank you, Dr. Venu.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I am so happy to be here on the 4th day of the conclave, which is very apt for the needs of the hour. The different areas, what is existing in the aquaculture, the opportunities for the new generation, and as well as the challenges the sector is facing. So I welcome once again one and all of the participants and to this conclave. So my topic is on the specific pathogen-free assurance of the exotic shrimp, that is the non-indigenous species, the Penaeus vanami, at the centralized quarantine unit in India. So now quarantine is a word that everybody is well aware of it. We use this word in our daily routine. So people are getting in quarantine for about 14 days. Disease screening is being done. So I think I needn't have to explain much about this quarantine. So just like humans require quarantine, shrimps also require quarantine. So to begin with, the presentation outline has main 4 points. So one is the introduction on the Pacific shrimp and its adoption by India for the commercial culture. The second is the concept and pathogen exclusion by introducing the SPF stock. Third one is vanami, and the last, the insight into the country's centralized quarantine unit. Okay, so this is just, I think many of us from the aquaculture sector, this is just for the new entries people or for the students who are not much aware of this species. This is a vanami, which is very common in the eastern Pacific coast, which is extending from the Mexico region, the Central and the South American waters, and also in the Peru region. Common name of the shrimp is Pacific wide-leg shrimp. Just want to find out, sir, is the screen viewable to all?
Yes, ma'am, we are able to hear, we see your screen, ma'am. I request all the participants to kindly pin onto Madam Ramani MC, who's presenting, so that you'll have an uninterrupted presentation. Thank you. Ma'am, you can go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is our native species, the black tiger shrimp, or the Penaeus monodon, the commonly called. This is a species which is commonly found in the Asian region. And once this was a dominant species in our export basket. So up till say about 1992. So gradually we had many diseases associated with the species, and the culture had gone down, the production, and of course the country's revenue. So during that time, many of the other Southeast Asian countries, they particularly started the culture of the vanami. So they found out that vanami is more lucrative, it is very easy to culture, and then the black tiger shrimp. So I'll be detailing it in more details, explaining it in more details in my further slides. The next one. So this table shows a comparison of the vanami and the monodon. The vanami is an exotic species. As I said, it has been introduced from the Pacific region. So now it is in our country. It is found in local markets also. So we find more of the species than we are finding our own native species. That's the monodon. So I had listed out certain characteristics here, the main characteristics which are very attractive for the vanami culture. That is, the one is the growth. What the farmer looks is mainly the growth. So here in vanami, we get about 2 to 3 grams per week. So the growth is very fast in the species. Whereas the monodon, the growth is slow. You will get a marked increase in growth rate only after 20 grams. And the next one is the stocking density. A farmer can stock about 150 and even to 400 pieces per square meter. So if he goes for super intensive culture. Whereas in tiger shrimp, the common name of monodon. So whereas in tiger shrimp, you may have to restrict or thin down the stocking density, say about 30 pieces per square meter. So this stocking density is a very important factor when one considers about the production at the harvest site. So the third point is a tolerance to salinity, temperature, pH, etc. You know, the water body is always susceptible to a lot of environmental changes, like change in salinity. When there is a heavy rainfall, there is definitely a drop in salinity. But vanami, it can even thrive in 0 ppt. But of course, there will be a lesser growth. But still, freshwater farmer can also grow vanami and harvest. But whereas for monodon, this is not possible. So the tolerance capacity for the tiger shrimp is very less when compared to that of the Banami. And the next point is about the disease resistance. So Banami is less susceptible to diseases, whereas Monodon is highly susceptible to many of the viral diseases. So particularly WSSV. So I didn't mean to say that Banami is not at all susceptible to diseases. I just said it is less susceptible. So you have to make a note of that point. So we get diseases in Banami as well, but not as that when compared to Monodon. So Banami is more hardier, that is the right way to put it, more hardier when compared to Monodon. Now the next one is the breeding. So Banami being a very open Thylaicum species than the Monodon, it is very easy to breed. So as you know, Jim Weiban, he is a scientist who went for domestication of the Banami, and we were able to develop different strains of stocks like specific pathogen free, specific pathogen resistant strain, specific pathogen tolerant varieties of Banami. Whereas Monodon, it is not possible. So only certain broodstock centers, broodstock meaning they are the parent shrimp. So broodstock centers, they were able to produce SPF Monodon. For example, Mona Technologies, which is situated in Madagascar. So they are able to produce SPF Monodon, that too not in a very large scale, but in a limited scale. But whereas you get a lot of domesticated Banami shrimps in the market. So there are renowned broodstock suppliers are there, which are able to produce domesticated SPF shrimps. And the next point is about the protein requirement. Now, protein requirement is an important factor when one considers about the cost of or operational cost of a farm or a hatchery. So if you take, in case of a Banami farm, the protein requirement is very less than say about 35%. So the protein range requirement is about 30 to 35. Whereas Monodon, it requires a large amount of percentage of protein. So protein content should be high to ensure a better growth and survival of tiger shrimps. Whereas you can go for cheap variety of feeds in case of Banami. So again, the production cost will be going less for Banami farming than when compared to the Monodon. The last one, the meat yield, that is at the, what we look for at the end, how much you get from the harvest. Say about 68% of the body of Banami is flesh. So it is a lesser shell weight. But whereas in case of Monodon, it is high. So the meat yield is lesser in case of Monodon, and whereas in Banami, it is higher. And the shell also, it is just the opposite, the vice versa. Banami, the shell content will be lesser when compared to that of Monodon. So why India went for Banami culture? Just a brief intro. Why did we go for Banami culture? So as I said, we had dwindling stock. Almost all the Monodon hatchery producers, they have to depend upon the wild-caught broodstock from the sea. So wild-caught broodstock, it might carry a lot of diseases. There is also scarcity of these brooders in the wild, in the natural population. So all this, as there was an expansion in aquaculture sector, right from 90s to 94, there was also a reduction of the stock in the brooders. You find it very difficult in the wild. And further, there were a lot of diseases happening in the hatchery and as well as the farm front. So all this resulted in loss of production, and as well as the country's export also started reducing, the shrimp exports. We know that aquaculture is a major sector which provides nutrition, and as well as not only nutrition and as well as the employment opportunities, if you see. So in that, shrimp forms a major component in the export basket. So it is one of the major contributor for the revenue growth as well. So all this considering, we found out that by about 94, there was a break in the 92, 94, there was a break in the WSSV. The rampant virus started one by one ravaging the aquaculture farms, shrimp farms. The farmers were in dire straits. They were unable to cope up. So it was during that time they approached the government of India And finally, the government of India went for a commercial culture in 2009. And that too, it was done after taking enough precautions. So enough precautions in the sense, they conducted a trial run in 2003 with some private entrepreneurs, and under strict biosecurity protocols. In 2009, they established a centralized quarantine unit, the aquatic quarantine unit. This is the only one facility in the whole of Asia which is dedicated to shrimps. And I'm very proud to say that I'm also a part of that facility right from the inception. And I was also able to handle the first consignment of the brood stock that had entered in our country. So the next one, this had already covered it. So the biosecurity certain measures the government had put in place is one, the AQF. So that time, Chennai International Airport was a single port of entry for this exotic shrimp species. So anywhere in India, whoever is interested for taking up a banami hatchery or banami farming, he has to approach the Coastal Aquaculture Authority. So they are the bodies which provide the license to culture or cultivate this banami farming. Or else they are the bodies who recognize or give license for seed production, the young ones of the shrimp, banami. And accordingly, once that has been obtained, they can always import the brood stock from certain CA approved, that is a Coastal Aquaculture Authority brood stock centers are there in the overseas. So accordingly, they can import the brood stock shipment from there. It has to be quarantined in the centralized quarantine unit of India. So the quarantine unit, mainly it carries out two activities. So those two activities are not separate entities. There are one only, assuring the specific pathogen free. That is the brood stock or whatever shrimp, because nowadays we are also importing the post larvae, the seeds. The germplasm are also being imported to India. So all this, it has to go through the quarantine, and then only the entrepreneurs can take it to the hatchery for production. Yeah, so the concept of SPF that was put forward by Jim Wyban and Oceanic Institute, which is located in Hawaii, they are the pioneers in domestication. And at this time, I also have to say that the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Aquaculture has an MOU with the Oceanic Institute, and the trial run was also done under their guidance in this facility. And the specific pathogen shrimps, as you know, the name itself, specific pathogen free. That means the stock or the population are free of certain pathogens. They are not free from all the pathogens, but from specific pathogens alone. So these specific pathogens are listed as economically important pathogens, or they are categorized as OIE listed diseases. OIE is the official international epizootics. I'll be explaining in detail in the further slide. So here, these SPF, so they are generated from a broodstock center where they find it negative, or they are free from those diseases for a period of at least 2 years. That is the minimum duration. And usually the pathogens excluded, as I've told earlier, so they should be economically significant diseases. So some of these diseases have categorized as per the etiological agent or the pathogen agent. There's the bacteria, the virus, and the fungus. The common disease what you find in the OI listed is NHPB. I've given the acronym as well here. The NHPB, that is necrotizing hepatopancreatic bacteria, the acute hepatopancreatic disease, or early mortality syndrome. Then we have the virus, the WSSC, white spot syndrome, the IHHNV, the infectious hypodermal hematopoietic necrosis, the TORA syndrome, the infectious myonecrosis virus, and the yellowhead or the gill-associated virus. Then we have the fungus as well. This is actually not OI listed, the last one, the hepatopancreatic microsporadious disease. So this is a disease which is happening almost in most of the shrimp farms. Nowadays, you find this disease in India. But this is not an OI listed disease. Okay, whereas the other two bacteria and virus which have tabulated in the first 2 rows, they are all OI listed diseases. So SPF stock. So if somebody wants to produce an SPF stock, the one criteria is at least for 2 years, the stock should be free of specific pathogens. Okay, so this is generally raised in a biosecure facility with a biosecure feeds, means it is a biocertified feed. And also the SPF stocks, they are not necessarily free of all pathogens that I mentioned earlier. And one thing what we have to understand is SPF stocks are also capable of exposing into getting, they are also susceptible of getting diseases. So this is not a genetic trait, whereas SPT, specific tolerance, SPR, so they are all genetic resistant traits. Yeah, this table shows the OI listed diseases in detail. So we have the NHPV, as I've told, it is necrotizing hepatopancreatic bacteria. It's a DNA viral pathogen. And one can easily find out the presence of the pathogen by taking out the fecal strands or the excretory matter of the shrimps. There is no need of sacrificing or going for an invasive killing of the animal. And the next one is the early mortality syndrome or the AHPND. This also, we can detect this disease just by taking a few milligrams of the fecal matter from the shrimp. Then WSSB, the white spot syndrome, which is very common again in our country, in Monodon as well as in Benami. Then we have the IHHNB. This is again a DNA viral pathogen. Infectious hypodermal hematopoietic necrosis. Then we have the TORA syndrome, which is an RNA viral pathogen. This is not, so far it is not reported from a country. IMNV or infectious myonecrosis virus. Few scanty reports were there from the West Bengal region, but it was not officially documented. Similarly, with yellowhead syndrome, or YHP and or gill-associated virus. So all this is an RNA viral pathogen. So we have about 4 DNA viral pathogens and 3 RNA viral pathogen in the OIE list. So the importance of SPF stocks is very much clear. The main reason is for that, for excluding the pathogen, the specific pathogen, so as to increase our production, get better profit or returns, and also it serves as a biosecurity tool. So that is why the government of India made it mandatory the stocks which are being imported or entering into the country should be a specific pathogen-free stock. Okay, this shows the diseases, how it is affecting the aquaculture sector and how it is causing, what volume it is causing loss to the shrimp farmer. The viruses, they are the major, as you know, even now also we are suffering from virus only, from the coronavirus. So viruses, it contributes about 65% loss in aquaculture and bacteria about 20%. So this is just a rough estimation I put. And this is actually taken from the goal. Then WSSP, it costs about $4 to $6 billion loss. TSP 1 to 2, YHP 0.1 to 0.5, and IHHNB of 0.5 to 1. So this is just a global estimation loss in shrimp production. So I'll be covering just a few diseases because, as you know, there are a lot of diseases and also new emerging diseases are also coming up in the shrimp sector. So I'll be just covering up a few diseases which are quite common with the Benami culture in India, and then I'll be moving on to the quarantine operation, how it is being done in our facility. So the first one is a WSSB, which is actually caused by a virus called Nemaviridea. It's the largest shrimp virus known. Okay, so it caused mass mortality. It has got a linkage with the fluctuations in temperature. So So earlier it had affected ponds of, usually in the initial stage, it affects the ponds of about 30 to 45 DOC, days of culture. And presently now it is seen even it affects as early as 12 to 15 days. And they are more virulent during the low temperature than when compared during summer or high temperature. Usually WSSP breaks happen when there is wide fluctuation in the water temperature. And once the animal is infected with this virus, you can see it paves way for the other infection like bacteria. Secondary pathogen starts affecting the bacteria and the entire crop will be washed out. So if you see in the previous slide, you can see the white spots appearing on mainly on the carapace region. And this is a very common symptom of WSSP. But whereas in bacteria also you can find out if there is some bacterial infection, sometimes chitinolatic bacteria, it causes certain white spots which are similar to this. So how do you distinguish from a bacterial white spots from this? Because bacterial white spots, if you see, if you just scrape, if you take the shrimp and try to scrape it by using the tongue, then you will find out the spots will be detached or it etched out from the carapace. Then that means it is caused by the bacterial infection. So this is how a farmer generally checks in the field. So if it is a viral infection, it won't come out as very easily from the carapace. The next slide. Yeah. The next one is the IHHNV or the infectious hypodermal hematopoietic necrotic virus. So this actually this pathogen is the smallest virus that is known in the shrimp family. So the largest one is the WSSP and the smallest one is the IHHNV. This comes under the parvovirus family, Parvoviridae. So IHHNV does not cause much mortality, but it causes deformities on the body of the shrimp. For example, there will be cut antenna, there will be a deformities in the rostral region, bent cuticular deformities will be there. So even the appearance of the shrimps will be reduced and there will be a severe retardation of the growth. So there will be loss of appetite will be there in the shrimps and the shrimps will gradually stop feeding. So the farmer won't get enough price and the appearance of the shrimps also won't be very satisfactory. So all these are the reasons for the reduction in the shrimp price. So IHHNV is also a very important economically significant disease. And since these animals are very lethargy and there will be a gradual mortality can also happen in the pond. Yeah. And the next one is about the EHP. So this, as I've said, this is not an OI listed disease, but this is a disease of concern, which the member countries also should take into account and put forth to the OI to list it. This is actually a microsporidian fungus, which is confined to the hepatopancreas area alone. So that is a specialty of this parasite. It's a spore-bearing fungus, which is called as Enterocytozoan hepatopenny. And the disease caused by this EHP is HPM, hepatopancreatic microsporidiosis disease. From the name itself, you can understand this spore will be confined, is always confined to the hepatopancreas. So the disease can also be diagnosed, whether the animal is infected with EHP. You can easily do a molecular diagnosis by going in for PCR just by taking the fecal matter, because the spores will be excreted into the fecal matter. So one can easily find out. You can also go for a microscopic observation by using hematoxylin stain and then find out whether the spores are there. Yeah, as I've said, this does not cause much mortality, but severe growth retardation will happen in these shrimps which are affected with the EHP. So this is again a very serious threat to the farming industry, as it is always directly linked with the production. A farmer won't get much of profit. Say he'll be keeping the prawns in the farm for a very long duration, feeding them, and then there will be a lot of feed wastage. The production cost will go high, and finally the harvest size what he could get will be about 10 to 12 grams or maximum of 15 grams. So this is one of the disease what currently our sector is facing. Other common disease what I could put forth is a white fecal syndrome. There are also many literature saying that there is a linkage between the white fecal syndrome and the EHP. So if you see in the this part, you can see that a lot of white fecus will start floating on the sides of the shrimp ponds. So that means the animal, the farm is affected by the WFS disease. So now comes the quarantine. So these are the main diseases I just highlighted to say that why a quarantine is required in a country. So this is the facility, the aquatic quarantine facility. This is a centralized quarantine unit of India, which was established in 2009 by the government of India and is operated by the Marine Products Export Development, the research and development arm. And we work under a strict standard operating procedure, which is framed by 6 government organizations. So that is one unique feature of this facility. This facility is located in Neelankare, Chennai, which is away from any other aquaculture activities. So that is one of the advantage of the location of the AQF. So the biosecurity threat is nullified here because of its location. And at the same time, this place is very close to the airport. So we can bring the broodstock very easily, broodstock or the larvae consignment from the airport very easily in a shorter duration to the facility and start quarantining them. And the standard operating procedures, since it is being framed by 6 government organizations, the Coastal Aquaculture Authority is there, then we have the NFDB, the CIBA, the Central Institute of Brackish Water Aquaculture, the MPEDA, the RGCA. So all these government approved government organizations are playing an important role in the operation of the AQF. Yeah, this is just a picture of the inside view of the quarantine cubicle. So in this you can see there is a recirculation system and the shrimps are being kept in isolation here. We have a series of a battery of about 40 tanks. This we call it as a cubicle, a quarantine. This is a broodstock quarantine cubicle. So the animals after receiving, they will be acclimatized first in the receiving area. Then they will be taken into a designated quarantine cubicle. So each hatchery will be having each hatchery stock. When the stock is imported by a hatchery, this will be quarantined in a separate cubicle. Yeah, so this is just a pictorial representation. So mainly we have the CA approved broodstock. There's a Coastal Aquaculture Authority broodstock suppliers are there. So I had given only 3 suppliers in this pictorial representation. So currently there are about 11 suppliers are there from the overseas. So these 2, that is a shrimp improvement systems, that is what I had abbreviated as SIS, that is located in Florida. That is one of the key major supplier of the shrimp broodstock in our country. Then we have the Kona Bay Marine Resources, which is located in Hawaii. And the SIS concern, we have it in Singapore as well. SIS Singapore, they have the branch in Singapore. So we have the stock coming from all over the world. It depends upon the hatchery operator's desires from where he has to from where he has to source. So once that is being done, he can bring the lot to a quarantine. So shipments generally come during the very odd hours of night and early morning hours of the international cargo flights. So that time all of us will be there. The entire team of AQF will be there at the quarantine center to receive the stock and start the quarantine process. Yeah, we have dedicated trucks which will go to the airport and bring the stock after going through biosecurity procedures, and the boxes have been unloaded here. And you see that shrimps are actually packed in this type of poly bags. So about 5 to 6 shrimps will be there, brooders will be there in the each bag. So that depends upon the supplier. Sometimes you may find about 8 numbers. Male and female are generally packed in separate bags and brought in. So this is the receiving area or the pre-quarantine area. So if you see, the boxes are just kept on the windowsill and the bags are open from there. This is for the SPF certification of how we are assuring whether the stock is an SPF or not. So this flowchart shows that we go for a non-lethal sampling of shrimps immediately on arrival, because the one brooder itself, the value of one brooder is about $6,000 rupees. So one brooder. So you can imagine the value. And now, because of the corona, again the brood stock suppliers had increased it to more than about 8,000 rupees. So you can imagine the value of this brood stock. And one brood stock now can produce about, say, about 5 lakh seeds. Earlier it was about 2.5 lakh seeds, but now with the advancement in the breeding technology, the hatchery producers are able to produce large number of seeds from a brooder. So we collect only the fecal matter and as well as the pleopode or the swimming appendages from where the nucleic acid been extracted. Once that has been extracted, we go for amplification, and further we go for the documentation or diagnosis of diseases, whether it is there or not, the highly sensitive methods. So this is just in a nutshell given. You can see the samples for disease screening, how it has been taken. This is a pre-quarantine area. So all these bags will be kept in the stands, and the samples are taken immediately from the bag itself, from the shipment bag, before being transferred into the tanks. Now, why this is done is, see, from Hawaii, we need about 60 to 80 hours for a shipment to come over here. So you can imagine the stress imposed on the animals. Okay, so when an animal is in highly stressed condition, and if you are able to take a sample and go for disease screening, even if there is a mild presence of virus or a bacteria, whatever, you can easily find it out by amplification. So that is why our SOP clearly says the samples to be taken immediately on arrival of the stock. And then once that has been done, we go in for disease screening. So this is a laboratory where it is being, everything is being done. So once that has been SPF assured, then we go for quarantining the stock for about 5 days, and then the animals are dispatched back to the importer. So these are, this everybody must be knowing. We have real-time PCR and as well as approved USDA approved machines, which are always calibrated from time to time and is validated also. So these are some of the measures, biosecurity measures we take to ensure that the results what we are giving at the end of the day is accurate. Yeah, these are the quarantine cubicles where the animals have been quarantined. And once that has been done, they have been passed through the corridors of biosecure corridors and then into the packing area. So here it is being packed, and this is only when the animal is being assured that they are SPF, then they are given back to the importers or the hatchery operators. Yeah. This shows the brood stock in the quarantine tags. And you can see the importers. The importers are not allowed inside our cubicles. They are supposed to be near the windowsill of the packing area. They have to bring their own vehicle. So at the time of collecting the stock, our vehicle goes and picks up the stock from the airport, but the clearance has to be done by the importer itself. Once all the clearance procedures have been taken care of, the stock will be taken by the AQF, and then it will be quarantined and given to the importer. The importer, this vehicle is the importers who had come to take the stock from the quarantine. Yeah, once that has been done, we again go for disinfection of the entire area. So some of the things what we have to keep in, that I have to highlight is, we always receive only one consignment in one receiving area. And similarly, each consignment will be screened separately. So in a nutshell, I can say that almost every brood stock have been screened, and we ensure that they are all free from the specific pathogens that has been listed by the OIE. And nowadays we are screening for EHP and as well as SHIV as well. I'll be coming to that slide again. Yeah, so the working list of pathogens, if you take care of, if you see, we have all this OI listed diseases, the WSSP, YHP, IHHNV, TSV, IMNV, NHPV, AHPNV. In addition, we are also screening SHIV and as well as the EHP. Sorry, I've left out the EHP here in this, but we are also doing that. And shrimp hemocyte iridescent virus, this pathogen has been, lately it has been discovered from China. And it has been found that this particular virus, it causes mass mortality in those regions. So that is why their production from China has gone down. So that is why Government of India has taken our own initiative. We are not charging anything from the importer. We are doing out of our own interest. For all the stock has been screened for the SHIV as well. Yeah, this shows the lab. You find a receiving area wherein the samples are just passed on. I have a video I can share with you if their time is there. That will be more interesting. We have dedicated sections in the lab, the pre-PCR, PCR, and post-PCR. And we have separate machineries as well for screening or for doing all the process which is required for the extraction of the nucleic acid. And all these will be done so that there is no any biosecurity threat. For example, the fecal samples are being handled by separate manpower, and they will be doing it in separate machineries like centrifuge, and separate PCR thermal cyclers are also there for handling or for screening different type of pathogens. And we go the highly sensitive method, that is the nested PCR or the double step PCR. These are certain things what I put in to show how biosecurely we are doing the screening process. We have separate deep freezers for storing chemicals and duplicate samples. And if you see, we always store in duplicate samples. So, and that will be preserved at the AQF laboratory for a period of 6 months. 6 months is being kept for one crop cycle. So in case if there is anybody challenging us, okay, the result what you had given us is negative, but when we checked with other lab, we had found it is positive. So there will be always, so expecting that we always keep a set of samples and extracts for verification anytime, and importer can always come and cross-check the results what we are giving from the laboratory. Yeah. So this is just to highlight the importance of the SPF assurance. So we had screened, the laboratory has screened more than 40,000 samples of Vannamei broodstock from different suppliers. So it doesn't mean that all the consignments what we are getting are SPF. So one more thing I have to highlight here, this AQF is a tertiary quarantine facility, wherein we screen the stock which is already declared SPF by the broodstock suppliers. That is a mandatory, which has been put up, mandatory guideline put up by Government of India. So our facility is to recheck whether the consignments what is coming to India are SPF or not. So you can imagine that most of the consignments, almost all the consignments, they are checking, double checking, and then only they are importing to India. But still, even in then, we had found out that one consignment was not so. We had found out a pathogen, that is the DNA viral pathogen, the IHHNV. And this was, we had validated, we had sequenced, and we had found out that target genome was IHHNV. And there are a lot of procedures. If some consignment is positive, then we have to validate our results, and SIBA is our referral lab. And these results will also be cross-checked by the Arizona University, by the earlier Leitner's lab. The University of Arizona, they have the pathology lab. They also cross-check because all these samples are coming from overseas. So we cannot just give the results as such. We always have to validate, double check, recheck, and then only we have to declare the results. Otherwise, we'll also be in trouble. So that is the thing. So this, once the samples were found to be positive, the technical committee operation of AQF under the guidance of the member secretary of Coastal Aquaculture Authority and the aquatic quarantine officer, the animal quarantine officer. There are higher authorities who takes the decision. An entire stock will be inseminated at the AQF, within the AQF facility itself. The importer cannot take a single shrimp from that consignment to outside. Once we declare it is not SPF. So this is a way how the facility is being functioning. And once this is being done, all the other suppliers, they become double careful. So whichever stock they are importing to India, they always double check and see, okay, this is all free from all this listed pathogens. So this is just a image what I had put to show that how the samples, what we have got it from a non-SPF broodstock and as well as an SPF broodstock. So here I can explain this is a molecular marker. This gel image has been developed in the agarose gel. And we had used the nested PCR. And the kit we use is the OIE approved kit. We use an OIE approved kit, which will have 3 dilutions of positive, 2,220 viral copies. And these are the positive controls I put here. We call it as P1, which is having a higher dosage of the viral copies, the second positive and the third one. And here is a negative or the blank, and where we had put only yeast tRNA. And these are the samples which have been extracted from the infected stock, the IHHNV infected stock, and we had loaded here, amplified and loaded here. So you can find that this is a molecular marker, and the molecular marker we have about 860, then about 630 and 333 base pairs are the molecular marker. And here if you find, you will find that if it is an SPF or a stock which is free of IHHNV, you won't find any band here on the second, that is on the 560 and 286 band. But whereas in this you can find it out. This lower image shows all these are SPF. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all are SPF. You will get only the housekeeping gene. 848 is a housekeeping gene. These bands are the amplification produced from the housekeeping gene. Whereas if it is an infected stock, you will have bands here, that is in the 560 base pair level and as well as in the 286 base pair level. So you can see high intensity of base pairs in 286 bit and as well as a moderate intensity of bit in 560. So this shows the samples what we obtained from the supplier was positive. So this is just a data. This data I have put it up till 28th July. So since the inception of the facility, we have quarantined about 16.2 lakh of brooders. So you can imagine the quantity of stock that is being produced in our country. Since inception, if you calculate 16.2 lakh brooders can give a production of about 60 lakh tons of shrimp, which will produce a revenue of about 168 lakh crores of revenue to our country. So you can imagine the role played by the facility in the revenue growth of the country through shrimp production and exports. Yeah, so this is just a slide showing the India being the second runner-up in the shrimp production. So about last year we had produced about 8 lakh metric tons of shrimp, and more than about 45,000 crores have been revenue has been generated. So this is the last slide, which shows the role played by the AQF. So it has been a firewall in mitigating diseases since the introduction of Banami in 2009 in the country. So it's not only playing an important role for boosting country's economy through shrimp production, but it had opened up a lot of job opportunities and as well as business opportunities. If you find that this Banami is a shrimp which needs to, for example, if you want a better reproduction or a fecundity, we need a lower temperature. So people go in for chiller connection, because particularly in Tamil Nadu, there is always a high temperature happening. So we go in for chiller. And this is just a small example I'm telling. So a lot of machineries, equipments abroad, they are getting also opportunities to expand the business into our country through the introduction of this banana species. And similarly, it is also giving employment opportunity to the people over here. In, for example, the feed mills, then in marketing, for probiotics, for antibiotics, etc. And also for the processing units. So all this has contributed for the upliftment of the livelihood status and as well as the economy of the people. Thanks a lot. It's a very short video which highlights the operation of the quarantine facility. I thought it would be very useful for the students who are in the aquaculture field. Yeah. Can you see? Can you see, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. We are able to see.
Okay, fine.
Can you please make it full screen, ma'am?
Yeah. Full screen. Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Does this have audio? But we are not able to hear anything, ma'am.
Oh. It has only.
Initially, we heard.
Okay. There's only some music,
Okay.
background music. So if you want, I can explain the background. So this is the packing area. So is it viewable? Hello. Certainly, it's not over. You can just show the lab as well. Okay. Only music is there.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
There are, dear participants, if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and ask madam directly. Yes,
Mahendran sir, can
yes,
you hear me,
ma'am.
sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There are a few questions in the chat box. If you could just read out to madam.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. I will do that, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
But one, Mr. Aqua Kesavan Kodanraman, he's trying to say something. Sir, please.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
You mentioned about stock intensity of Venami and Monodon, no?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned only 25 pieces per square meter in case of Monodon.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned more than 250 for Venami, is right?
Yes, sir. But Benami,
How is it possible, madam? Semi-intensive culture, 25 pieces per square meter for Monodon and 250 pieces for Venami. Do you think it is right?
so CA itself had given about 60 coastal aquaculture authority. Yeah.
In your speech, you have told 25 pieces for Monodon and 250 pieces for Venami. Do you think it is correct?
250, I think I had given 60 to 150
No,
or something like
no,
that.
you
Yeah.
about more than 200.
But
Hello?
No, sir. No, sir. Madam is right, sir. Madam is right. Sir, what madam says is right, sir. She
Hello?
didn't mention 200, sir.
How many pieces you mentioned, sir?
Ma'am, please tell me 1 second. Please tell 1 second, ma'am. 60 by 150 maximum.
yeah, 60 to 150.
Yes,
150.
yes, yes,
60
yes.
to 150.
Do you
First
think
one.
that 150 is possible per square meter, madam?
So maximum, sir.
Yes,
Madam
sir.
has mentioned.
Maximum.
Sir, semi-intensive culture, how it is possible, sir? 25 Monodon and 150 is Venami. How it is possible, sir? I don't think.
No.
For semi-intensive culture, 150 is too much,
Yeah.
you know.
The maximum, madam says, sir.
What is the maximum?
Because
Just see the difference.
150 maximum.
No, where is 250? Sorry, 150, where is 25, madam?
150.
25 because Monodon we did like that, sir.
Sir?
Sir, Monodon we did like that only. Maximum 30 itself maximum, sir. So madam said average.
No, Dr. Simon, sir. Maximum
Yes,
is
sir.
25 to 30 pieces per square meter in case of semi-intensive culture.
Yeah.
For Venami also,
Yeah.
just simply they are increasing, not 150, sir.
Yeah, that's true, sir. But madam has said 60 is.
Even indoor culture
150.
also.
Yes, yes, sir.
150 is highest in
Highest
intensive
side, madam
culture.
has said, sir.
In the intensive culture.
Intensive.
Yes, in
Yeah.
the beginning stage, our farmer used to do, sir. Now only they reduced for 60
Reduced,
and 40.
correctly.
Yes.
Sir,
Correctly. Exactly, sir.
If it is intensive, okay, sir, little bit.
Yeah.
Semi-intensive is not possible.
Yeah, that's what, sir. Now we are advising 40 to 60 is the average now, sir. You know very
Because
well.
I too have 25 years experience in
I know, sir.
farming.
I know, sir. That's why I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Sir. Yeah.
Because, just then so many problems come across. If you
Correct,
increase
Yes,
the
sir.
density.
Yes, sir. Because when actually Venami was started in India, CA has given the guideline to stock 60 per square meter. If you refer to the earlier guidelines which has been released by the CA, now only they have thinned down. Because there are a lot of farms had come up, the biosecurity has also been staggered. So considering all that, we are thinning, the farmers themselves are thinning down the stocking density.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, we have few questions.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. One, Ms. Bhagyashree has asked, ma'am, can meat yield be guessed with the help of protein requirement? How does protein requirement help in the meat yield?
How does protein?
Protein requirement
Ah.
help in meat yield?
Yeah, protein definitely it helps in tissue growth. So
Okay.
definitely it has got a role in the meat.
Okay, ma'am. Then the virus you mentioned, are they communicable to humans when they handle shrimps?
No, not at all, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Then one participant has asked, we have indigenous species P. indicus, Indicus SPF brooders or genetic modification of indicus is it practiced in India or not?
SIBA has done, the Central Institute of Brackish Water Aquaculture has done, but it is still in low key, sir. It is yet to be taken up into a large scale or commercial scale. Only the field level research has been done, but they had come out with good results in the breeding aspect. But it's yet to take off.
Okay, okay, ma'am. And
I would like to add to Mr. Simon Vijay and Madam. Sorry, I could not able to log in at the at the right time due to my preoccupied meeting. This is Santanapuram Bharatdasan University.
yes, sir. Welcome, sir.
Actually, the former Kesavan Sari talked about this stocking density. I am not working on shrimp culture field, but I read about the bioflak coflak is a novel technique. Bioflak coflak, where the probiotic bacteria, along with the copepod, amphipods, and polychaetes, this called bioflak coflak. By this method, we can stock 250 numbers per meter square. So there is one farmer in Thailand is doing the shrimp farming in lined pond. The stocking rate was 250 per meter square. With this high stocking rate, the shrimp is growing well, and the farmer he got very good crop using the technique called bioflak coflak. So this information I would like to pass on to the Kesavan sir, who raised this the question on what is that stocking density. So only one farmer in Thailand, not at all in India. No, now not even a single farmer is practicing this shrimp farming technique. That farming technique is called bioflak coflak. Please, sir, Kesavan sir, you can just go through the Google website and put the bioflak coflak shrimp farming. You can get lot of information where the stocking density is 250 per meter square. So this I would like to add to Madam and Mr. Vijayan. Answer.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir, for highlighting the importance of bioflocculating technology here. I think the CP also, the CP Foods in Thailand, they actually come out with this bioflocculation technology, wherein they had even documented about 350 stocking density in CP Foods in Thailand.
You are right, madam. You are right. You are right.
Thank you, sir.
One more participant asked, how many types of shrimps are there in India?
I think one about a maximum of 6 species has been documented, sir. But I'm not very much sure because they say, for example, Metapenes dobsoni. Dobsoni is a species not as very commercially it is accepted still. But whereas the banana shrimp, Peneus merguensis, so it all depends upon how we take it up. So altogether about 6 to 8 species has been found to be commercially viable one. But the technology, if you see, only this Banami has been technologically and is much expanded worldwide. Though it is an alien crustacean, because this has got a more of positive impact of introduction of the species. Even if Monodon, if you see, we are still at the low level. Only the research is being happening in India regarding the production of SPF Monodon. So we are also planning to import SPF Monodon from broodstock center like Mona Technologies, so as to revive the shrimp culture, the black tiger shrimp culture in our country.
Thank you, ma'am. What is the biggest type of shrimp available in India?
Because I think it is Metapenes monoceros, I am not sure, but the freshwater prawn is a biggest one, the giant freshwater, and Monodon we call it as a giant tiger shrimp.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, will the SPF Venami face any viral or bacterial infection once it enters the farm?
Definitely, sir. Definitely. it depends upon if your biosecurity is not proper. The SPF stock, as soon as it comes out from a SPF facility, we call it as only high health shrimp. They are not SPF. They are called as high health shrimp. So depend upon how much biosecurity care you are taking for the shrimps. So SPF status depends upon the biosecure level taken care by the farm and as well as the hatchery level.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. One Ms. Aditya Jodi has asked, what is the difference between prawn and shrimp? Even I want to know, ma'am.
Actually, prawn is, if you see the prawn, this you will get in any of the literature, sir. But anyway, no problem, I can explain. One, there is morphologically, there is a difference in the segments, particularly in the carapace in the abdomen region, that is in the cephalothorax region. Otherwise, if you see the life cycle, if you take case of the shrimp, the juveniles, you always find in the like mangrove areas, estuarine areas. But whereas a prawn is always in the freshwater side, they won't go to the sea. But whereas shrimps, they will have their life cycle completed in the sea and as well as in the like in wetlands or the mangrove areas. That is the estuarine area. Whereas a freshwater will have life cycle in the freshwater and estuarine, not in the sea. So that is a major difference.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, in case of a new disease outbreak, how much time will it require to include the new disease in the existing screening list of pathogens in AQF?
Yeah, that is a valid question. So depends upon, for any quarantine facility, the first thing what we require is a robust diagnostic tool. So first thing what AQF generally finds it out, whether OIE has come out with an approved primer, because we go in for a fast rapid test. Okay, so because we do not have time for keeping the animals in the quarantine and check the diseases. So the first thing what we find out is whether a rapid diagnostic tool is there, whether OIE has come out with approved primers to do the test. Once that has been done, we take in for a technical committee meeting. And once that has been decided by the committee members, we go in for inclusion of the list. So nowadays we screen both for OIE and as well as the non-OIE listed diseases. Earlier, AQF has been screening. At the start, we have been screening only OIE listed diseases, because now as the banana sector is expanding, emerging diseases are also coming up. So we are taking enough precautions by using robust diagnostic tool. So if diagnostic tool is there, which is very fast and accurate, AQF is always ready to include in the working list.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
One, Elizabeth has asked, which is currently predominant disease associated with shrimps, and do we have specific diagnostic facilities for that?
Yes, we have, sir. The one current disease what we find in our shrimp sector, as I mentioned, is the EHP. And of course, WSSP is always there. EHP, we have a diagnostic tool for that. The best diagnostic tool, as I mentioned, is the PCR. That is a faster method, the real time. We can also go for histology as well by taking the hepatopancreas, because this is actually a microsporidian fungus, which is always confined into the hepatopancreas. We may have to sacrifice, because once if you see that the animals are not growing at all, then you can go for sacrificing some few animals from the farm or pond. You can go for histology section, find out for the spores, or you can take the fecal samples, give it to a good laboratory wherein they do for EHP screening, and then you can come out with the results. Because EHP is a disease which is being transmitted through feed, like polychaete worms. Because for maturation, many of the farmers and hatcheries, they go in for feeding with mussels or polychaete worms. So they are the carriers of this EHP. So once if you can, there are some procedures which you have to follow for providing the feed, because they say pasteurization has been found an important method which should kill the spores. So that is one method. So if a hatchery or a farm can adopt all these methods, we can definitely reduce the incidence of such diseases.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please tell me bacteria name which is commonly causing infection in shrimps?
Name a bacteria.
Bacteria. More than
bacteria
infection.
For example, Vibrio parahemolyticus, which causes early mortality syndrome. But the bacteria which is very common is found as a Vibrio species itself. You have the Vibrio harvey, Vibrio anglarium, many are there, sir.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, is there any monodon cultivation in India? Please provide details.
Yeah, lot are there, sir. Now, many of the farmers, they are likely to, they are already started doing monodon as well and Benami. Some of the farmers, they have switched on purely to monodon. Only issue is getting stock. You need brooders. As I've told, there is a dwindling population in the wild and we don't know what all diseases they carry. But still, people are trying to import the SPF monodon broodstock. We are also yet to get, because that also SPF monodon broodstock, once it enters to India, it should pass through the aquatic quarantine facility. So we had already, government has already permitted the import of the SPF broodstock, but because of this corona and issues, they were unable to ship the consignment. We are expecting the consignment on August first week. The first monodon SPF broodstock, we are expecting out in first week. Many farmers are doing it, sir, now.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any biomagnification issues with shrimp's consumption?
So far, it is not reported, sir. In the literature, nowhere is not reported.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. What is the maximum PL production per brood?
Per brood is, now it is about 5 lakh. As earlier I've told, when we started, we have about 2.5 lakh brooders per female. So now with the advancement in technology, we are able to produce about 5 lakh.
Okay. Ma'am, total production of anime, what quantity is consumed in India and how much it is exported? Out of the total production of anime in India?
Yeah, last year I think we were able to export about 7 lakh tons of shrimps of Benami. Mostly it is Benami only, so but 95% is Benami in the export basket. India was able to produce a total of 8 lakh shrimps.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, shrimp culture is one person, Mr. Shivakumar has asked. My question is, shrimp culture is mainly problem WSSV and EHP. Recently isolated WSSV new strain in India after 2015. Which primer you're using for WSSV confirmation by PCR?
Yeah, we are using OIE approved primer. OIE approved. So if you just go to the official site of the OIE, you will get the primer sequence.
Okay.
And there are also kits which has been approved by the OIE. So we are using the OIE approved primers.
Okay. What kind of adverse effects have been noted due to microplastic accumulation in aquatic systems?
Yeah, that is actually not the topic, but of course I can tell a few words. Microplastic accumulation, as you know, it's very lethal to the aquatic population. Because microplastics, as you say, it is not only the larger quantity of plastics that are dumped. Say, for example, I can just tell you the waste that is being discharged into this. So all can cause the depletion of the oxygen level. So I'm not very conversant in that because that is not my area. So I'm not able to tell much about it. I can give a general.
Sir, if Madam permit, Ramani Madam or organizer permit, can I answer this question?
Please, sir.
Yes, please, sir.
Yeah, actually the microplastic nowadays emergent pollution, one of the emerging pollution, and starting from diatoms, microalgae to mammals, the marine organisms are getting affected because of microplastic. Very particularly the filter feeding organisms, especially the corals, all crustaceans, filter feeding organisms such as zooplanktons like copepods, starting from copepods to mammals, baleen whale, the blue whale, they are mistakenly ingesting the microplastic as they think that is their food, zooplankton or jellyfish, and it is accumulate on the intestine of the organisms, and later it will facing a problem for digestion, and even it will change the nutritional characteristics of the fish. Even recently the microplastic is reported in fish, and corals are eating microplastics. So starting from the microplastic, they used to form a biofilm in a microalgae, so that the microalgae, they used to sink in the sea bottom, whereas the microalgae should be there in the sea surface for the photosynthesis. If the microplastic pollution is continued, there is a drastic changes in the oxygen, okay, because of lack of photosynthesis due to the microplastic absorption. So the microplastic is a serious issue, especially in marine ecosystem, as the marine organisms are living in the undersea, underwater. So this should be taken care by the environmental scientists, especially marine biologists. As Madam rightly pointed out, the cultivable organisms, the shrimps and fish is also facing threats because of microplastic. So this is I would like to emphasize here. Thank you for the opportunity given.
Thank you, Santhanam sir for Bharatdasan University. Ma'am, one more student has asked. You mentioned about water quality changes induces white spot virus. How to measure the water quality fluctuations, ma'am?
Yeah, nowadays you get thermal sensors are there, sir. Very easy. Nowadays automated sensors are there, which you can put in the field, deploy it, and you can get an app in the mobile and get the details. So any fluctuation, it will be recorded.
Ma'am, in the SPF shock Vannamei and non-SPF Vannamei, is there any morphological differences?
No, morphological difference, you cannot find out anything on that, sir.
Okay. I think, ma'am, can the change in feed and feeding pattern also increases the susceptibility to diseases?
Change in
feed and feeding pattern increase the risk of susceptibility to diseases?
Yes, sir, definitely, sir. So as I've said, like if you use natural feed, so that is why they advise you go for screening the natural feed before giving it to the broodstock, because many of the diseases, if you see, they are vertically transmitted. So by screening the feed also, even the feed what we are giving in AQF, that is also being tested to ensure that it's an SPF certified feed. Then only we'll give it to the shrimps. So that it has to be followed. So definitely the feed has got an important role in causing the diseases of the shrimps.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is there any intensive type of aquaculture farm operating in India?
Yes, sir, it is there.
Yes, ma'am. And I think you've answered all the questions very aptly, and we had a lot of questions, and you really cleared all the participants' doubt, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Now I request our Dean Research, Dr. J. Jainti ma'am, for her concluding remarks for the 4th day session of the 5-day Industry Academia Conclave on Aquaculture. Ma'am, please.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Very good evening to all the participants who have attended the 4th day session of this Industry Academia Conclave. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Ramani, who has given such a wonderful presentation and such a laborious information that she has given. Thank you so much, ma'am, for having accepted our invitation and having been there for this conclave and shared your expertise with the youngsters and also farmers and researchers in this upcoming field. We are so thankful to you. For once, we were very happy. For once, we are very, very happy to listen about a different virus and a different quarantine. All these 5 months, we were listening only about coronavirus and quarantine. So today, we have listened to a completely different virus and a different quarantine altogether. We're so happy, Ramani ma'am, that you have accepted our invitation. Thank you so much, ma'am. And a few words of thank you, ma'am. A few words of I'd like to thank certain people. First, a special thanks to our principal, Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, who stayed till the end to observe the program, and he's a silent spectator. He's been watching the entire program all through. Thank you so much, sir, for the support that you have rendered. And special thanks to the resource person of yesterday, Mr. Vijayan sir, who has joined us for this session, and also the resource person of tomorrow. Mr. Jaydeep is also joined the session to support the conclave. Thank you to both of you. Dr. Santhanam, who's been an active participant in the entire conclave, he's been very interactive and he has been answering all the questions thing. Thank you so much, Dr. Santanam. A special thanks to Dr. Arul Vasu from the University of Madras, who's been attending all the sessions of this conclave. Thank you so much, sir, for the support you have given us throughout the entire conclave. And thank you to all the participants. It has been a wonderful 4-day session that we have had. And tomorrow will be the valedictory session, come the last session of this conclave. We expect that you extend the same support to us as you have shown for all these 4 days. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. I think actually ma'am gave me the job of thanking people, but ma'am has thanked everyone. So nice of you, ma'am. But since the job is given to me, I will try to give the vote of thanks in a very brief manner. I, on behalf of the Guru Nanak Center of Research, Guru Nanak College, wish to extend my grateful thanks to our Honorable Resource Person, Dr. M.C. Ramani, Project Manager, Scientific Research Planning and Management, Aquaculture Quarantine Facility of the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Aquaculture, Empeda, Chennai, for readily accepting our invitation and sparing her valuable time with the very informative and useful presentation titled SPF Assurance of the Exotic Shrimp Venami at the Centralized Quarantine Unit in India. Ma'am, you have really enlightened us with the quarantine aquaculture. The information you provided, I'm sure many of us are learning it for the first time. In fact, most of us came to know the word quarantine, that the word quarantine exists only after this pandemic COVID-19. But you dedicated your entire career in the quarantine facility, and you have explained the very complex system and process in a very simple and easily understandable way with your presentation.
Thanks a lot, sir.
I'm sure all of our participants would have got benefited and learned more from you. Once again, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot, sir.
I also sincerely thank our most revered General Secretary and Correspondent, Mr. Manjit Singh Nair, our respected Principal, Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, sir, for their constant support, guidance, and help for all our activities. I thank our Dean Sciences, Dr. S.C. Noorjahan, ma'am, for delivering the welcome address of today's session, the 4th day of the Industry Academia Conclave 2020. I thank our Dr. J. Jayanti, Dean Research, Guru Nanak Center for Research, for organizing very great, useful program like this for the benefit of the students, research scholars, and faculty. I also thank our Vice Principal, Students Affairs, Dr. L.R.S. Kalanithy, Deans of various schools, heads, and faculty of various departments of Guru Nanak College for your support and active participation in all 4-day sessions. I thank Dr. S. Venu, Assistant Professor, Department of Advanced Zoology and Biotechnology, Guru Nanak College, for introducing our resource person, and Dr. Bonish. And I thank all the participants from across the country for your support and active participation. Once again, thank you all. Dear participants, the feedback link for today's session have been posted in the chat box. Kindly submit your feedback links for the issue of e-certificates. The 5th day and the last day of the conclave, that is tomorrow, the resource person is Mr. Jaydeep, editor and publisher, Aquaculture Outlook, will be sharing his views on aquaculture. We shall all meet at 2 o'clock. You can use the same Google Meet link for joining tomorrow's program. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ramani ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I thank the college for providing me an opportunity to highlight about the quarantine facility here. I hope you all will come and visit the facility if at all, if anybody is interested. And GCA is always there to help you out. If anybody wants something on screening the diseases, any information on quarantine, please do not hesitate to approach us. I thank Dr. Noorjahan Madam, Dr. Jayanti, Raghunathan Sir, and Venu for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to talk in this conclave. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Want to know more about these topics? Please follow us at Guru Nanak Center for Research YouTube page, Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Thank you.